What's up everyone, Antonio Fletcher back with you once again. In today's video I take on Anita Sarkeesian in her latest video, All the Slender Ladies, Body Diversity in Video Games, and exposing her fallacies regarding the perception of female beauty. Of all the social injustice wars which exist, she's probably at the very top, if not at the very least near the top of the ranks. Let's jump into the video now.
At their annual BlizzCon event in 2014, the wildly successful game studio Blizzard Entertainment showed off a new game they had in the works called Overwatch. And from that first reveal it was clear, the appeal of Overwatch resided in its cast of characters, a diverse assortment of heroes each with unique traits and abilities. The roster revealed at BlizzCon included men and women, sentient robots, and super intelligent gorillas. However, for all the apparent variety and diversity in the heroes Blizzard showed off at the game's debut, there wasn't much diversity to be seen in the body types represented by the female heroes. The male characters introduced that day included the towering knight Reinhardt, the sturdy engineer Torbjorn, the agile archer Hanzo, and the hulking simian scientist Winston, among others. The 5 female characters introduced consisted of the slender adventurer Tracer, the slender healer Mercy, the slender support character Symmetra, the slender sniper Widowmaker, and the slender but well-armored security chief Pharah.
Oh snap, we can already see where this is going.
Overwatch was hardly alone in having all of its female characters share a similar physique. In Ultra Street Fighter IV, characters such as Dalsum, Hakan, E. Honda, Rufus, and Vega represent a significant range of male body types. Looking at the roster of female characters, however, while some may be a bit taller than others or have slightly larger thighs, not one of them represents a notable departure from the slender body type that has been established as the standard of conventional female attractiveness.
First of all, attractiveness is a subjective natural feeling, not a convention. Second of all, the general target audience for these games are generally males, so they appeal to the target market. And it just so happens most guys like smaller women. That's just a reality. The exact same thing can be said for ladies to their preference of six-pack, lean-cut dudes. Most women like guys of that particular profile. Also, Anita clearly doesn't want to take into account the sensitivities most women have about their weight, which is quite telling, seeing as she claims to be a feminist who understands women so much. Rufus, the fat male which was just shown, was meant for comedic effect, seeing as men generally are not as sensitive about their weight as women are. If a female was fat and joked in the same way as Rufus, it would have been a war by feminists about fat-shaming women. Furthermore, for the women who do play video games, you generally don't hear this complaint about not having bigger-sized women in games from them. Either Anita doesn't understand today's culture and those who like video games, or she is deliberately being dishonest.
Similarly, when we look at the champions on offer in the hugely popular MOBA League of Legends, we see the designers employing a wonderful range of body shapes and proportions across dozens of male characters, from the classic muscular warrior physique of Taric, to the hefty beer belly of Gragas, to the cartoonishly disproportionate body of Dr. Mundo. There isn't any one male body type that is presented as the standard default male body type, and the value of these characters is definitely not connected to their sexual desirability. But when we look at the female heroes, there's nothing approaching the diversity we see on the male side of the roster. There are a few noteworthy variations from the standard. Illaoi is somewhat more muscular than many of the female characters. Jinx has smaller breasts, and there's the cute gnome-like Tristana. But the overwhelming majority of female characters make it clear that a slender figure with prominent breasts is viewed as the standard for female character design.
Let's be honest here. If there was not a single fat male person in this game, you wouldn't hear Anita whining about it. Most games in which the male is the main character isn't some fat person, yet you don't hear a peep out of her about that. This is beyond embarrassing.
Likewise, in Dota 2, male heroes can be handsome or comical, outlandish or grotesque, while female heroes are mostly relegated to being standard humanoid characters with conventionally attractive facial features. Where are all the female rock creatures, skeletal priests, and whatever this thing is?
Anita has the platform to be able to conduct a poll with females to find out if the majority of women who play these games feel the same way she does. I would venture to say that the overwhelming majority of them would not. With having comments disabled on her videos, it's clear she knows what she's saying is a bunch of BS, in which case she simply wants to remain in her safe space free from having her nonsense exposed for what it is. Nonsense. It's obvious to me that this isn't about her desire for diversity. it's about money. As YouTube user Some Black Guy pointed out, there's a link to his video exposing her nonsense in the description.
This isn't just an issue in fighting games, MOBAs, and other titles that give players a range of characters to choose from. Female characters across the board are often limited to that same specific body type.
I should kill you.
Doing all right there?
Stay away from her.
Sure you want to let him go? And this guy wants me to trust him.
It's as if male characters are free to embody whatever physique best communicates their personality or abilities, but when it comes to the designs of female characters, that kind of imagination and creativity often doesn't seem to exist. Rather than seeing such an exciting range of female characters, we mostly get the same body type over and over again, one designed to be sexually appealing to the presumed straight male player. This reliance on the same body type for so many female characters isn't just boring, it's harmful. It links our value as human beings within the culture to our desirability to men, and it reinforces our culturally influenced ideas about who gets to be considered desirable and who doesn't.
Yes, Anita, because the answer is to make people desire body types they don't desire, just so people of generally less desirable body types feel accepted. Be for real, Anita. You aren't exactly a large girl, and you fit right into the same standard profile which would be considered more desirable. If you are so concerned about this issue, then why not put on a few pounds and join the fat acceptance movement? Lead by example. And are you indirectly admitting that you are for programming people, directly or indirectly, to accept the wide range of women body types? You aren't remotely making any sense at all, Anita. And by the way, Bayonetta, which was one of the characters you included in that little set there, was made by a woman. Just putting that out there.
The problem is exacerbated by the fact that when we do see representations of women with different body types, they're often presented as a joke, as in Fat Princess. Or they're pathologized and presented as a twisted transgression of the established feminine ideal, as in the case of the evil lesbian psychopath Joe Slade in Dead Rising.
Let's see just how shameless you are, you dirty little skank. Say hello to my little friend.
No, not again!
Anita, if you actually had a clue and did more thorough research, you'd also know the fat male character Rufus from Street Fighter IV you featured was also made into a joke character for his weight. Where were your complaints about that? If you knew this, Anita, you should have equal complaints about him as well. If you did know, then stop featuring such characters to make a failing point in your ignorance.
When the majority of women who populate these game worlds are designed from the same narrow template, the problem isn't just what we're seeing in games, it's what we're not seeing. The fact that fat women and women with different body shapes aren't featured in these worlds reinforces the false notion that these women are less valuable and less worthy of recognition than those women whose bodies come closer to matching the cultural beauty standard.
It's not about forcing others to accept women of all sorts of body types, because this is what you are really saying, Anita. It's about you as an individual knowing your self-worth as a person. People are going to see you as someone special if you see yourself as someone special. And it does women of other body types no favors by social injustice warriors like you to indirectly demand others to desire them. It would be much better if someone comes to be attracted to a lady which fits the profile of a generally less desirable body type, presumably bigger women, in spite of how most men would find smaller women more desirable because of who she is, not because society forced someone to find her desirable. Because it then makes the question into this: would more men find women of a bigger profile more desirable because of societal pressures to be more accepting to them? Or is it because they legitimately are attracted to them? This is the problem with social injustice warrior logic. It teaches that others are responsible for seeing one's worth instead of teaching the individual themselves is responsible for seeing their own self-worth.
These limitations on creativity when it comes to female characters don't stop with body type. We also don't see the same range of ages commonly represented as we do with male characters. It's not unheard of to see male soldiers, fighters, and heroes who appear to be in their 40s, 50s, and even older.
You're right.
Playable female characters, on the other hand, are almost always young, and it's for the same reason that so many of them have the same body type. They're intended to be sexually appealing to straight male players. The result is that we have plenty of representations of male characters who communicate that men can continue to be active, vital, and powerful over the course of their lives. Meanwhile, the absence of older playable female characters wrongly suggests that women's value is tied directly to their beauty and youth, and that when they're older, that value is all used up.
One very famous character destroys her nonsense, Katana from Mortal Kombat. Not exactly a spring chicken. Okay, so she's from the realm of Edenia, where people tend to live much longer than people on Earth realm. But seriously, even Earth characters in the latest Mortal Kombat game, like Sonya Blade, have aged and still kick major butt. If you look at games like Soul Calibur 5, you have Ivy, still kicking major butt, but despite being in her 50s. So it really shows just how lacking Anita is in her research to rush to find elements of objectification. And in the real world, you generally don't have women fighting in their twilight years anywhere near the level men would, besides maybe in stuff like wrestling. And let's say more games were to include women kicking major butt despite aging. That wouldn't necessarily magically appeal to a feminist who argues like Anita. Such could be easily twisted and spun into MILF comments of objectification. When you're dealing with a dishonest feminist like Anita, people like her will attempt to find elements of objectification of women and elements of inequality no matter what. You can't win with radical third-wave feminists.
There aren't many good examples of prominent positive representations of women with different body types in major contemporary games. In Life is Strange, there's the minor character Alyssa, a classmate of Max, the protagonist.
I didn't know you were a sci-fi geek like us. What's your favorite?
In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, there's Agnes McBean, owner of the train which becomes the hero's base of operations.
Then may I present to you Agnes and Bertha, Lady and Locomotive.
And in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Kreia is a great example of a capable, powerful, older female character.
I am Kreia, and I am your rescuer, as you are mine.
Let's go back to Overwatch for a moment. Since that initial reveal, a few female heroes have been added to the roster. There's Mei and Zarya, both of whom have body types that are notably different from those of the originally announced female characters.
Anna, reporting for duty.
And more recently, Blizzard announced the game's next hero, Anna, who's both an older woman and a woman of color. These characters are welcome and encouraging additions, but really they're just a start. Game developers need to continue actively working towards creating the same range and diversity of female body representations that we see among male characters. When female characters' bodies are liberated from the need to uphold narrow, limiting cultural beauty standards, the resulting range of representations can not only make games themselves more interesting, it can encourage us to see all women as the desirable, valuable, autonomous, fully human individuals that we are.
Once again, it goes back to individual self-worth. No amount of diversity increase will tackle the most important issue of individual self-worth. Social injustice wars like Sarkeesian like to focus on the wrong issues in order to turn our society into a everyone else is responsible for you world instead of a you are responsible for you world. The only ones trapped in a prison complaining about the nonsense you spewed is people like you, Anita. And while Anita is complaining about most games having character body types which fits the profile of smaller women, Bayonetta, a character which fits this profile, was created by a woman, as I mentioned earlier. Would Anita tell her she isn't liberated? But Anita won't ever acknowledge such things because she wants to keep women in a state of constant inferiority so she can continue to profit off total falsehoods and lies. She couldn't give two drops of spit about women or diversity. Now, if Anita constantly wants to profit off the deception she speaks, that's definitely her business and her right. But eventually, what goes around comes around. And as always, if you liked the video, comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, if you didn't like it, leave constructive criticism in the comments. Thanks for watching. God bless and peace.